Hello, good evening and welcome to Joy News Prime. We're coming to you live from our studios here at Kukumlimli. We're live on DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 125 and around the world on myjoyonline.com. Tonight, civil society organizations against illegal mining are condemning President John Dramani Mahama's rationale for withdrawing police forces in the front line of the Galamsey fight, describing his explanation as woefully inadequate or misguided. Also in this bulletin, President Mahama says his administration is on track in the fight against corruption. We speak to an anti-corruption crusader about the president's efforts to ensure they end corruption and their thoughts here on Joy News Prime. Also tonight, minority in parliament accuses government of political vendetta over MPP rationale, regional chairman detention, and the removal of the Chief Justice, Gertrude Tokonum. We hear from the minority leader, Alexander Feyo-Market. Remember, we are your home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. My name is Faustina Safo. It's a good time to take a seat and please be my guest. Thanks for choosing us. Tonight, civil society organizations are firing shots at President John Dramani Mahama, condemning his rationale for withdrawing police forces from the battle against Galamsey, Ghana's crippling illegal mining menace. The groups are livid, labeling his explanation as woefully inadequate and misguided, especially his claim that police operations were chaotic and inadvertently targeting licensed miners. There's more in the following report capturing President Mahama's encounter with the press yesterday.
President John Mahama has explained why his administration withdrew police from illegal mining sites. According to him, the operations were becoming chaotic and in some cases affecting licensed miners.
We called off the IGP's anti-Galamsey task force because they are supposed to coordinate with NIMOS. That is the National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat. Unfortunately, they were not doing that. So every little commander in any this thing gets up, Galamsey phobia or Yankochiomo. They can't tell who is licensed, they can't tell who is not licensed. And so it was just like an attack on the whole small-scale mining industry. And so what we said was they should freeze their action. They should synchronize it with the National Anti-Galamsey Operational Secretariat so that they can be directed exactly to where to go in terms of the anti-Galamsey fight.
On calls for a state of emergency over Galamsey, the president dismissed the suggestion, saying it was not necessary at this stage.
I've been reluctant to implement a state of emergency in the Galamsey fight because we've not exhausted the powers we even have without a state of emergency. We have the opportunity to arrest anybody, to confiscate any such thing. There are laws for forest protection and all that give us enough powers to be able to act. Implementing a state of emergency might sound nice, but it should be the last extreme, the last resort. So for now, let's exercise all the powers we have.
He also acknowledged that the ban on excavator imports introduced to curb illegal mining was not fully enforced.
We're enforcing the law that you must get the permits before the excavator is put on a ship. That is what the law has been, but it was not followed. And so they let the excavator land before they come and ask the Ministry of Transport for a permit. And so we've informed all the dealers that you cannot load an excavator onto a ship until you have gotten a permit.
Responding to questions about whether state-backed buyer Gold Board had purchased gold from illegal miners, the president's remarks drew reactions from stakeholders.
In 6 months, we have exported over $6 billion. About $4 billion of that money was going to go into the private or foreign traders. And so the first thing is you shut the stable door so that the horse doesn't escape, which is what we've done. So if it's from illegal sources, it's from legal sources. At least it's our land that is being destroyed. So let us get the benefit of it instead of foreign traders. So that's the first thing.
Civil society organizations maintain that the country's water bodies and forests remain under severe threat, and they continue to push for tougher measures to tackle illegal mining.
Still on the media encounter yesterday, President John Dramani Mahama has revealed that more than 200 corruption cases are currently under active investigation, with about 80 individuals already interrogated. Speaking to journalists yesterday, the president said several cases have moved to the prosecution stage, including high-profile matters such as the SkyTrain deal, the National Service Authority scandal, and the National Cathedral audit.
100 cases are under active investigation, with about 80 people interrogated so far. Several prosecutions have begun, progressing steadily and remaining firmly on course. In the Republic versus Edubwan and 3 others, the state has submitted witness statements together with all other documents, and trial has commenced. And the first of 3 prosecution witnesses have been called and have been cross-examined by counsel for the accused person. With the SkyTrain case, for instance, the prosecutors have secured a trial date, as all preliminary matters have been concluded and the trial is set to commence. For the National Service Authority case, due to its expansive nature, charges have been drafted and will be filed as soon as the legal year begins against the following person: the Republic versus Osei Sibe, the Republic versus Eric Nyaku, the Republic versus Gifty Owari. Also for the National Cathedral, we are waiting a forensic audit from the Auditor General. Additionally, charges have been drafted and are ready for filing in the case of Republic versus Wuntumi and Akunta Mining. The Economic and Organized Crime Office, EOCO, is finalizing its report with respect to Exim Bank transactions. Dockets are in preparation for the buffer stock case and the drip equipment case. Investigations are ongoing into the African Cup of Nations case, the Mart Set case, and approximately 20 other cases currently. Let me be clear, every single case of corruption that needs to be investigated is being looked into. And once evidence is found to ground the prosecution, that will happen and happen swiftly.
The president also assured the public that anyone found complicit in corruption will face prosecution. He emphasized that no case under investigation will be abandoned and that once evidence is secured, charges will be filed without delay.
I can assure you that there's no way anybody can interfere. I cannot be in people's mind to stop them from attempting to interfere, but I am responsible for making sure that that interference comes to naught. And so I closely monitor. I hold regular meetings with the Attorney General. He briefs me on the status of investigations. And so I'm confident that, the cases will go ahead based on their merits and that nobody would have the opportunity to interfere. If anybody goes lobbying people or paying people to interfere, they probably are just throwing away their resources. All cases will be investigated and come to their logical end. If people are exonerated in the courts, that's what justice is all about. We will do our part, and we're being painstaking in preparing the dockets, and that's why people are complaining that it's a bit slow. But you don't want to hurriedly take a docket to courts and have it thrown out on technicality. And that's why you need to make sure that by the time a docket is prepared and prosecution starts, you have a watertight case that will ensure that you get a conviction. And so that's the process that we're going through.
Let me bring him Edem Senanu. He's an anti-corruption crusader. We appreciate your time here on Joy News Prime. We're just hearing from the president tell us the reason why we're experiencing a little bit of delays in terms of prosecution, with some of the key concerns that have come up after the formation of Oral. Are you satisfied with his verdict?
Well, yes. I, in my view, we should make hastily when it comes to the rights and freedoms of persons. And usually the investigation phase is the one that takes a while. You've got to deploy quite a number of people to try and pick up the evidence, make sure it's of the quality that when you get to court, you are going to...
Adam, we seem to have lost you. I'd like you to reposition your lines just to make that point for us.
Can you hear me now?
Loud and clear.
Okay. So I was saying that when it comes to the rights and freedoms of people, it's good to make haste slowly. And so the investigative phase usually is where we spend a lot more time. But if they do it right, then you get a quality evidence, which when you get to court, you can get a conviction. So yes, it's understandable that people may be concerned, but I think this is a necessary phase where you just got to take your time and do it right. And I think that we should be patient so that we don't go incarcerating people who ought not to be in jail or ought not to be sanctioned.
And then one key concern the president raised yesterday was just to give the assurance that indeed, despite any attempt to manipulate the outcome of investigations, he will ensure that everyone found complicit is actually apprehended. Your thoughts on that?
Well, it's great to have the assurance from the president. It can be a bit tricky because based on what people at the operational level handling these cases, you always have people who are joining the process, especially if they thought they are culpable and do not want to get themselves killed. And so it will take a lot of effort, not just him, but the appointee behind this to ensure they are not compromised or influenced. So it's good to have the assurance, but it's going to take a lot more to make sure that that doesn't happen.
And what is that? What is that thing we would need to do more to ensure it happens? Because we've had criticism of previous administration where individuals were tagged clearing agents. What's the assurance that it won't repeat itself now on the guise of gathering enough evidence?
Well, I think that if the president is going to, as it were, allocate time where he has some persons who he knows are very principled, who will be part of a team assessing and reviewing what goes on in that space, such that if there are any red flags, any things that seem suspicious, they can investigate and, as it were, provide another layer of assurance. Because the president himself is very busy. And so the point I was making was that it's going to be very difficult for the president to supervise this. But perhaps a team like-minded to review what comments are coming up, keep an eye on any intelligence coming up to ensure that at the end of the day, his own people don't go selling him out. That may be one of the ways of dealing with this.
Thank you so much, Adam Senano, for your time here on Joy News Prime. The minority in Parliament, they are accusing President John Dramani Mahama and his administration of pursuing what they describe as a spree of political vendetta. The minority leader, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, cites the arrest and continued detention of NPP Central Regional Chairman Kwame Bafo, popularly known as Abronye DC, and the removal of the Chief Justice, former Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonum. Speaking before the UK Minister for International Development and Civil Society Organizations in Parliament, he made the assertion that this must end. There's more in this report by James Avechi.
Speaker Alban Bagman received the UK's Minister for International Development, Baroness Jennifer Chapman, as well as a number of civil society organizations in Parliament today. The UK Minister used the opportunity to congratulate Ghana for 8 continuous democracies through 9 successive elections over the period.
I know that here in Ghana you have open, free, successful elections. You have peaceful transfers of government. You've had one very recently. These things also are not to be taken for granted. And the work that you've done over many years now to build a strong parliament is something that we admire and we commend and we want to.
The minority leader, Alexander Panyumakin, in a no-holds-barred statement, used the opportunity to criticize government for a number of actions, including the arrest of the MPP's Central Regional Chairman, Abronye DC, as well as the dismissal of Justice Gertrude Tokonu.
Just yesterday, I saw one of my regional chairpersons on just an act of misdemeanor, and he had been handcuffed and being pushed into Black Maria. These are things that I feel we don't need. It's a blot on our democracy. We don't need it. The excesses of institutions where government has to take responsibility for can be improved upon. So, for instance, if you are investigating someone, you ask the person to report, and he reports. You don't just handcuff the person when he has voluntarily come to you for investigation, and then you say, I have put a bail bond of, say, 50,000 on you, look for property before I release you. And of course, we in the minority are not satisfied or happy with how the Chief Justice was recently removed. You know, we see it as more of politics than really ensuring that there's some accountability. I am a moderate politician. I believe that the excesses where the hardliners take the center and you take the pace when a government comes into office must be a thing of the past.
Speaker Alban Bagbin, in his statement, underscored the contributions of the UK Parliament to major reforms in Ghana's parliament, especially the setting up of the Public Accounts Committee as well as the drafting of the new standing orders.
In 2007, as part of our efforts to open up the work of our Public Accounts Committee to the public, we received critical support from your government. Even more current is the support we are receiving from the revision of our standing orders. We have done a very good job and brought in a number of visionary initiatives in the new standing orders.
In order two parties look forward to sharing more years of stronger national and parliamentary democracies together. From Parliament House here in Accra, I am James Savaji for Joy News.
Well, let's take you back to our earlier story and just bring you a conversation we promised you with the Deputy National Director of Arocha Ghana, Darrell Bosu. We appreciate your time. We also have joined the conversation Chairman of the Task Force on Galamsey, Professor Martin Oteng Ababio. We appreciate your time here on Joy News Prime. We just want to take you back to our earlier story on the President's stance when it comes to illegal mining. We've been hearing from civil society groups today, raising concerns about the President's words and his approach now. I'll start with you, Darrell. We're hearing from the President tell us that declaring a state of emergency should be our last resort. You've been pushing for the declaration of the state of emergency for months now. What's your reaction to this?
Thank you very much for having me, and good evening to everyone. I think the issue has to do with the President and how he's appreciating the crisis that we find ourselves in. I mean, we have seen that even prior to his election as President of the country, he was very much on also supporting calls for state of emergency, and we have always been saying that we need a targeted state of emergency. Now, if we hear him and what he's saying, we get a sense that he's not really appreciating the urgency where we find ourselves. And as far as we are concerned, the crisis point that we were last year and now has no change. If you compare the two, the situation as we see it has escalated. Yes, the government has taken some steps to secure some of our forests that used to be fully under the control of mining tax and all of that. But the biggest problem still remains, the crisis of the menace and the impunity and the destruction of our river bodies, the insecurity as well with the mining as well. All of these issues are still pending and very prevalent in our communities as we speak. So the danger and the crisis is still here with us. It has not changed. And we thought that as the president of the land and thinking about the risk-setting agenda, as he said, we're going to come to Because clearly, all the things he said, we have not exhausted all the avenues available to us.
And that's the exact point the president is making. We haven't exhausted our avenues. That's the exact point he's making. And so we should hasten slowly with declaring that state of emergency that you're pushing for.
This government is already in its eighth, I should say, ninth month being in power. And the only time that this government can really get a good grip of this Galamsey menace is this year. Because knowing how our politics work, the experience we have over the years, the first year, the second year is where all the goodwill is and where even the government itself stays committed to the things they promised in opposition or when they were campaigning. And then after that, they go into a mode of they've been in power, they've been, I would say, goes onto themselves and do whatever they want to do. So we know that if the president says that we have not exhausted all the avenues, what are these avenues? Because clearly, everything they are doing now, we are not seeing the results.
Aren't we seeing the results? You just made mention of one of the key things he raised yesterday, was the fact that they've been able to reclaim some of the lands and forest reserves occupied by illegal miners.
Hold on. They repossessed some of the forest reserves, but that has not taken away the risk and also the current threat of mining and encroachment going on. You don't see some of these areas with illegal miners with excavators. There's still artisanal mining going on in most of the forest reserves as we speak. Jamira Forest and some other forests, Amiral Kuti Forest, is still under siege. And so there's still a lot more to do. And the actions so far are not lasting enough for us to see the results that we really want to see. So for the president to downplay the urgency of the issue by saying that we are not there yet, I mean, just the pollution of one major river basin should have already sparked a lot of anger, a lot of, I would say, interest for the state to put in all the necessary measures. We have 60% of our forest river bodies destroyed, 44 forest reserves destroyed or impacted by Galamsey, and we think that it is not time yet.
Okay.
We still have to wait.
Okay, thank you so much, Darrell. Let me bring in the chairman of the task force on Galamsey, Professor Martin Oteng. We appreciate your time. I just want to get your initial reactions. We just heard from the president yesterday. Just tell us why exactly he had to withdraw the task force commissioned by the IGP on illegal mining. Some of them, he tells us that when they go on the ground, they tend to also go after individuals who are licensed small-scale miners. As chairman of the task force on Galamsey, brief me on your processes, really, and how effective your work has been on the ground. Prof, you have to unmute for me to hear you clearly.
Yeah, I guess you can hear me now.
Loud and clear now. Okay.
So I said thank you very much for having me. And let me make some correction.
Okay.
I am not a task force I'm not a chair for the task force. I chair the committee the government put in place to fashion out the proper way of maintaining the small-scale mining.
Okay.
And I'm also the chair for the Forestry Commission.
We appreciate that correction.
Yeah. So if I got your question correct, why government, can you please repeat your question, please?
So based on the designation you're giving me, I just wanted to understand what went into some of the key proposals that you made before government and the modus operandi of the task force in the first place.
So first, let's understand the conversation better. I'm surprised Boso is saying that the situation is getting worse. I'm very surprised. Yes, we are not there yet. The challenge is still with us, but at least now greater part of the problem has been solved. We used to have
a greater part of the problem has been solved, you say?
Yes, yes. I'm saying that we used to have about 9 forest reserves which we could not enter. Now all those have been recaptured. Short of saying that, yes, people still invade it once in a while. But in time past where people were holding these forest reserves with impunity, you cannot get one today. Not a single forest reserve have been taken over with impunity, as we used to have. Second, we have come to realize that those involved in the Galamsey activity are well entrenched in terms of resources and in terms of financial resources and in terms of weapons. So we need to tackle the situation with tact and care. That's the reason why we want to avoid situation, for example, happened 3 days ago where the community met the soldiers and there were 3 casualties. The government is saying that, yes, Galamsey is as it is now, is bad. Can we find a sustainable way of giving people livelihood and also taking care of our environment? That's the reason why we are coming up with the cooperative mining, a mining system where government can give concession to a number of people, give them some technical advice, help them to do proper mining, which will not impact negatively on our environment.
But then the effects of illegal mining as a country we're still grappling with. We heard from Ghana Water Limited just make their case before PRC days back that it's costing them more to purify water. The reason why they're pushing for a hike in tariff by over 200%. And so, fair point, we may want to look at how to mine sustainably, but the problem and the canker still in our society, the reason why civil society is pushing that declare a state of emergency. Let's rid our water bodies of these criminals. You don't agree?
My good sister, are we saying that the water bodies got polluted within the last 6-7 months? These are things that have been with that we are trying to resolve. That's the reason why we tried bringing in the water gas to man our water bodies. We are thinking that and I'm saying that we don't have people in the forest reserves where they are impacting negatively as they used to be in the past. We are hoping that once we're able to get the few left in there out of the place, the water bodies will turn blue with time.
Thank you so much for your time here on Joy News Prime. We end the conversation there. You're still watching Joy News Prime. When we come back, we'll take you to the Savannah region and give you updates on the Binyere conflict. Please stay tuned in. Thanks for staying with us here on Joy News Prime. To other stories now, education in the Savannah region's conflict-stricken Binyere community has come to a standstill. That's according to Africa Education Watch, which is demanding urgent government intervention after revealing that over 5,000 learners have been displaced, with families fleeing the violence. Children have been left without classrooms, teachers without learning materials, raising fears of long-term setbacks to education. Government 3 days ago instituted a mediation committee tasked to find a solution to the conflict. Speaking to Joy News, one of the displaced individuals called for urgent interventions.
Yes, when it happens, we all run away. And I didn't go far. I was just in the bush there, monitoring what was happening in our community. Later, I received a call that some people were coming to attack us at Chenchere. So I saw people moving. I also decided to relocate and to come to camp here. What is happening? We don't know how things are going to end. But for now, we can't stay at Chanchere. And the other communities are there. Everybody has moved away. This motorcade that brought many of us, it came twice, but the driver said he cannot go again. That is what is happening.
Joining us now on the line is the Public Relations Officer for the Ghana Education Service, Daniel Fain. We appreciate your time here on Joy News Prime. We're just hearing from Africa Education Watch. Give us startling statistics that over 5,000 children have been displaced. How is GS responding to the situation? Do you even know about this number based on the data you have?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Indeed, the conflict is ongoing, and we continue to gather data. We continue to engage the state director, the regional state, the school leadership, and able to gather first-hand information on what exactly is going on, and then make some concrete decisions that will help our learners and help our teachers and all stakeholders as well. So you know what we normally do when human lives are involved in order to protect human life. That is the lives of our students, the lives of our staff. What we normally do is to close down schools so that, you know, schools and education environments are usually environments that attract the eyes of people involved in conflict, because it is normally seen as an area that people gather. A lot of students gather, a lot of teachers gather. And so once conflict breaks out and we realize that it poses a threat to the lives of our students and our staff, we first close it down so that it doesn't become that attractive spot for people to endanger the lives of our students and our teachers. So that at the moment, that's what has happened. Schools have closed down. Learners have joined their parents, their families. Some of them have been camped, all in a bid to ensure that their lives are adequately protected. Whilst we still monitor the situation on the ground, we still follow the conflict, we continue to engage the stakeholders and everyone involved to help us take some helpful decisions going forward. And at the moment, that's what we are doing.
Okay, we understand that you're trying to ensure that the pupils are safe, but the key concern now is the interruption to the academic calendar. We don't know how long this conflict will travel for, so are there contingency measures to ensure these pupils continue learning while they're away from their communities?
Indeed. So one of the first things that come up, one of the first disturbances that come up is the disruption in the academic calendar, because whilst the conflict is ongoing, while schools are closed down in those districts, schools in other regions and other districts are still having the best teaching and learning still on. And so it comes difficult to have learners affected straight and affected turkey have less smooth. And as I earlier indicated, once the conflict of human life, the oath is the Ghana to step and protect the life.
Oh dear. Daniel, you have to position rightly and make that point for me, because we seem to be losing you and your connection is not clear. So just position rightly, and within a minute, if you can make that point for me, I'll be glad.
Yes. So one, as I mentioned, the human life is most important for us. Now we know our learners are somewhat safe and our staff are somewhat safe. We continue to engage. We are looking at how best we can put in place some intervention, even if that to engage our learners while we take some concrete, some more concrete decisions that will help them academically. Yes.
Thank you so much for your time here on Joy News Prime. Away from that, work on the Tema Flower Highway is stalling as the contractor warns a delayed $105 million facility could derail the progress of work done so far. The funds are needed to continue works on the 17-kilometer stretch from the Tema roundabout to the Central University campus. Collins from Pong has more in the following report.
The 17-kilometer stretch linking Pombaria and the Central University campus on the Tema Road is scheduled for completion in 18 months after works resumed on April 7, 2025, more than a year after stalling in December 2022. But progress now hangs in the balance as government is yet to reinstate a $105 million loan facility for the project's completion. Client Relations Manager of BHM International Construction, Wisdom Adonu, spoke with Joy News.
Well, funding, we are still waiting for the funds to be, the loan to be reinstated. In the meantime, we are working in good faith based on the Minister's assurance in April, and we are committed to delivering this project on time as soon as the loan has been reinstated.
After 5 months, the $105 million loan that we were requesting that to be reinstated has not been done. Are there any risk should you not get it in time?
Well, currently we are confident that as the discussions are going on, the loan will be reinstated in time for us to execute the project. But then the longer it delays, it will make things more difficult for the contractor to be able to do his job per the contract demands.
So can that delay the completion of the project or even maybe suspending it again?
Well, executing project like this needs funds. So without the funds, the project will be starved, and I believe that will make life difficult.
So far, visible improvements have eased traffic. What was once a grueling 3-hour drive between Pombaria and the Dowenya has reduced significantly, thanks to newly expanded lanes, now partially open to motorists.
I travel these rounds regularly from here to Pram Pram. It used to take me about 3 hours just to get to Dowenya, but now I do it in about an hour. Yeah.
In fact, almost because the best contractors are.
The contractors are really doing well. They've come a long way with the work, and I believe by next year, this road will be completely transformed.
Before I do next year,
compensation for residents and traders remains a stumbling block. Out of 1,131 people identified, only 842 have received payments. BHM's public relations officer, Pastor Samuel Alute, is urging government to expedite process to clear the way for construction.
And out of that, we have 569 that have relocated actually from the site to give clearance for the activities, which represent about 50.31%. So far, that is what I can say on compensation payment and relocation. So I'll urge that the government continue, expediting processes in paying compensation and to relocate perhaps to clear the way for us to, proceed and continue activities.
Meanwhile, contractors say the next phases will see asphalting works begin, alongside the completion of 4 flyovers, 3 of which already have structures erected. Reporting for Joy News, Collins from Pong.
You're still watching Joy News Prime. When we return, we'll bring you showbiz. Please stay tuned in.
But let's talk about Ghanaian High Life sensation Akwaba. He's keeping it real, refusing to engage with online trolls. In an interview with Andy Dossie, the musician reveals his strategy for handling negativity, letting his music do the talking.
They can step on your toes for a very long time, but you can't allow them to always insult you like that or talk, especially against my wife or anybody. So sometimes I just want to let you know, so challenge. Yes, be on one way in my some campaign. So but apart from that, musically, I don't know how to come and say, okay, why didn't you give it to me? It was supposed to be for me. Why didn't you do this? Or why aren't you paying attention? I know Ghanaians love my music so much, and it reflects in my concerts. When you have the concert, the way they come in their numbers to support you and stuff. And then you'll be on a radio as well. People are there streaming your song quietly, loving you from afar, and we don't even know. And so for them, I wouldn't want to disappoint them by always coming out to say, no, say, blah, blah, or being always on social media. No, I feel I let the music do the talking. But I find myself in a space where wedding things are happening almost everything fast. We'll be in intent and blah, blah, blah. And I'm also quite doing my stuff in Kakra. So maybe I want to make cancer in those who are talking yet to a monkano. But trust me, I know Ghanaians love me.